Hello, I'm Steve from the Agile Mastery Show. Now, one of the reasons I set this up, as well as to provide guidance and support for Scrum Masters and Agile coaches to help master their craft and kind of give back a little bit. Well, once a month, I get to sit down for a chat with someone I admire and respect, or a former colleague that I've had the pleasure of working with, and explore their experiences and perspective on our industry. And today, it is a huge pleasure and an honor to share the online sofa with someone, and I don't think it is overstating, is the godmother of Agile, a living rock legend, author of probably the most essential book for any Agile coach, an international bestseller, Coaching Agile Teams, co-founder of the Agile Coaching Institute, which has developed over 10,000 people, long-time IC Agile contributor, helping shape Agile coaching competency model, relationship systems and executive leadership coach, a strong advocate for women in Agile, playing a leading role in the Women in Agile 10 Women Strong movement, international keynote speaker, and one of the most influential figures in shaping Agile coaching as a profession. I'm super excited to welcome onto the show Lyssa Adkins.
Wow. I can hear the crazy applause from the stands with all of that that you just said. We
I'll,
were
I'll add that in.
we're missing the track that goes,
It is like, hello Glastonbury kind of moment.
really?
I hope it's not overstating to say that you are a living legend,
Well,
Lyssa.
thank you. I wouldn't use those words myself, but as you're reeling off those things, I'm like, yep, yes, it's true, it's true. And I think that one of the hallmarks of a developed person is the ability to correctly state their abilities with full confidence and also with humility. That we don't know everything, and each one of us is just a part of a much bigger story, and we don't have most of the pieces most of the time. Um, it does feel good to know that the time I spent focused on agile coaching has had a positive impact in the world. And so hearing you say those things brings it back. I got very moved. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, just the numbers there. I mean, 10,000 people developed, and like the amount of copies of the book that you sold is it's
Yeah.
incredible.
I just found out the book was translated to the 14th language.
Wow,
14th language, yeah. I didn't imagine that, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy that that book is doing its job.
really cool. Well, let's start off by going back in time a little bit here, and I want to get into where where you came from. Like, what was life like before Agile for you? What were you doing back then, and how did you get into it?
I think life before Agile for me is very similar to what I hear people talking about their life is now, which makes me incredibly sad. So, what life was like for me prior to Agile was that I was the director of a project management office. I had, half a dozen, maybe 12 or so, 14, I don't know, at any one time, a good number of project managers working for me. And I'm using this language really deliberately because this is how I thought of it at the time. They were working for me, they were doing their projects. I was directing the whole thing. I was involved in all of the escalations and fire drills. I was involved in all of the setup of the big projects. And I remember the one that was 100 million US dollars nearly killed me. And I didn't even start to quote unquote execute that project. These are the words we would have used then. I didn't start to execute that project because just the winning of it and the setting up of it nearly broke me. And at the time, I was a single mother of a young child. She was 6 years old or so, and I said, I can't do it. I just have to go back and be like a regular. This is my idea. Go back and be a regular project manager on little projects that don't matter. Like, don't stop climbing this ladder, basically. And I did. And I stopped climbing the ladder. I went back to be a regular project manager working for a credit card company, and then bam, ran smack into Agile. It wasn't a plan. It just happened. But it without the contrast of agility, I would have never seen that the system we were working in was inherently inhumane, broken, and the cause of psychotic behavior.
Yeah. So it was kind of like you'd seen both sides, and then suddenly it's like I felt, for me, I was the same. I was in project management, and I sort of like felt like I'd come home. I felt like I was in this place I really belonged. That I was in the right
Oh, good
environment.
for
You
you.
know,
Good for you.
yeah,
I felt like I had landed on a foreign planet and all of my abilities and sense of value and worth had been stripped away from me. And I had to learn everything all over again.
right. Like relearn.
So you relearn. I had to
Hmm.
constantly be faced with all the ways that I had been hurting people in the old
Hmm.
system. Even the same people would say, "Oh gosh, she was a great project manager. I'd love to work with her again." It's because I was nice about it.
Hmm.
It didn't mean that I wasn't hurting them. I absolutely
Right.
was.
In what way though? In what way were you hurting them then? Do you think
Oh,
by,
just
by pressure?
people all the time, all the time, all the time, like this. So I'm a very fast thinker, and I think a lot of people who end up in some sort of role of director or project manager, or what Agile coaching has unfortunately become, um, are these people who can think fast. We can connect the dots pretty quick. We can sort of like be the center of activity. We can organize things. We can see who needs to go where, what needs to happen next. We can sort of see what's coming down the pike. Ooh, are we going to get stuck there? Let's get out ahead of that. You can feel the anxiety even in my voice. I can feel it in my body.
Hmm.
Right.
Like
So
spinning plates and
yeah, well,
juggling balls and
they're not plates, they're human beings.
yeah, right, right.
That's what we're spinning. We're spinning human beings. And so basically, it was like constantly manipulating people to do my will because I was convinced in the old system that was completely broken and that is still quite broken today. I was convinced that I could see a way forward. And if I could just get them to do what I see, it will all work out.
Hmm.
Now we know now as agilists that always was and always has been a false oasis. That oasis does not exist. That it all
Hmm.
working out just because people do what you see can be done. No, because we're working in a world of complexity. We're working in a world of surprises. We're working in a world of unwanted change.
Hmm. And
And so
volatility and
yeah, yeah, so there's nothing you could have ever done to make it turn out great.
hmm.
There's only working together step by step by step, working with the change as it comes. That's what helps things turn out great. And that's what agility gives us. That all the other ways of working, forcing, manipulating, cajoling, people have their own versions of it. Mine was actually a very forceful, velvet wrapped sort of uh, attitude or behavior. Other people's are really very sweet and cajoling. Some are really like cut and dried. Everyone has their own way that they survive
Hmm.
in those systems.
Yeah. I I mean, you mentioned there about survival. It's like if people are products of the environment and the culture inside, and you have different leadership styles. You mentioned about um, how today you've seen very similar things still happen. Why is that? Do you think? Not why is it not being fully embraced and we're doing it right and completely different?
So I spent a lot of time with that question, and I have been led down the path to really learn about and study and immerse myself in the world of adult development and understanding what do adults go through or what can they go through to continually develop themselves as adults. And it turns out that most adults stop developing themselves. They sort of calcify or fixate at whatever level of development they're at. For most people, it's at a level of development where they sort of just go along with the system and try to survive, like you and I just talked about, right? They're gonna try to fit in, even if they don't necessarily believe everything going on. They think, well, someone knows how this place works. Someone knows why we're doing this. So I'm just gonna do my piece, right? And it turns out that that level of adult development works really, really well for known repeatable things,
Okay.
right? Known repeatable things, which does not tend to be the world we're in these days. With the advent of new technologies, and now we're moving into the world of exponential technology, like, it's basically like every day is a due day. We're never going to have Groundhog Day. Never going to have Groundhog Day in our careers ever. From
Mm.
here, not going to be doing the same thing over and over again.
It's moving so fast, and the complexity is getting deeper, right?
Yeah. Well, I think
Mm.
what's happening is we're exposing the underlying complexity that was always there.
Okay.
It feels to us like it's getting
Mm.
organized, but I think the world always was. Um, and Robert Keegan, which is one of the people I study, and he has one of the many adult development theories out there. He says if you are encountering the world as too complex, what you're actually encountering is your lack of complexity to meet the world as it is. And so I'm paraphrasing because he says it much more elegantly and with fewer words. And then basically he goes on to say, so you only have two choices: hope the world becomes less complex, or develop yourself, your own complexity to meet it as it is.
Mhm.
And so, like, this is a long winded answer to your question of why do I think agility has not taken hold, or, why do I think we're sort of back to the world I was in you know, 25, 30 years ago, where we have these huge systems that don't work and are super inhumane and all that. They never went anywhere.
Mm.
None of those super inhumane systems ever went anywhere. They all stayed. Um, and I think that it is a matter of helping as many adults develop themselves as quickly as possible if we're going to have a chance of creating systems that actually meet this moment and not the moment of routinized mechanization, assembly lines, that sort of thing.
Right, right. Does it link here a little bit to coaching? Um, that going back to what you were saying about people or adult development sort of stops. Is it? I mean, people go on training courses, taking certifications to move them to advance their career, but it's not deep self work.
Yeah, yeah. So adult development does not have to stop. I mean, let's just be
Yeah.
really clear about that.
Mm.
Right? So all of the theorists, all of the people who have studied human behavior, psychology, neurology, all of these things tell us that adult development can continue your whole life.
Yeah, of course.
Isn't that
Hmm.
wonderful?
Mm.
And we're living longer. Great. Those things seem to go together.
Uh-huh.
No. So what helps someone develop to a new stage is some sort of crisis that helps them understand their ways of coping with the situations they're facing don't work anymore, an openness to change, not necessarily knowing how it's going to happen, but just being open to it, and time. And time. So it takes quite a lot of time for someone to stably move from one level of adult development to the next. And the next is not, it's not like, uh, it's not like the next one is so much better than the previous ones. The next one is just more. It allows you to do and see and act more agentically with more agency in more and more complex situations.
But when you say it was, I mean, time is, yeah, obviously it's fixed. We can't do anything about it. It's it's always moving. But the want to do it part of it, I think, really sticks out for me. It's that it sort of links nicely with therapy, and we as coaches we sometimes become therapists, right? It's a fear factor. People do. Is it that people are fearful of exploring themselves on a deeper level through coaching?
So I don't think so. I routinely lead people into exploring
Mm,
themselves on a deeper level all the time, like all the time. I think it is just having a skilled guide,
mhm,
you know, a coach, a therapist, someone who knows how to help people uh, become aware of their inner landscape, think about the patterns they're using to make sense of their world and to make conscious choices. Do they still want those same patterns or not? You know, so no, I think it's actually super easy.
mhm.
Now, I have certainly met people who are like, "Nope, don't want any of that. Nope, you can't ask me what I'm thinking right now. And forget the F word. You certainly cannot ask me what I'm feeling right now." So, okay, fine.
Mhm,
I mean, everyone has the right to stop where they want to. But here's
mhm.
the thing, you can stop at a level of adult development and look like you are super effective and super smart and super everything. Right? Because if you keep accumulating skills and tools that match that level of adult development and they actually kind of work, at least somewhat work, you could be mostly successful like your whole life. Mm.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, sort of going back to the whole why doesn't agility stick, or how it, I mean, this is like one of the big questions I had later on around transformation. It's like, is it a collective blocker? Like you've got various different leaders at different parts of the organization that have that blocker in front of them that are unwilling to take that deep level work. What do you think?
I think it is a couple of things. I think it's a product of it's certainly in the northern hemisphere. It's a product of a lot of stable systems since World War II.
Hmm.
Have allowed us to build a lot of like multinational, big supply chains, globally connected finance, all of this stuff that makes us feel like we've mastered something. We're okay. We can be safe, right?
It works. It works. Yeah.
Works. It
Hmm.
works. Um, and it's also generational.
Mm.
So, like, I pay attention to the younger generations and I'm like, okay, as long as we don't completely suppress them, they're going to be able to function in the world that we have created a lot better than we're functioning in it.
Hmm.
So I mean, when people say to me, "What do I do about my boss that just won't do X, Y, or Z?" I'm like, "Wait for them to die or retire." But they're not far away from it, right? So, you know, I mean, I think some of this is just like let's let the generations swap out.
Hmm.
You know,
And so we just wait. We just wait it out and
and
let it
in the
let it go.
meantime, decide
Yeah.
what you're willing
Yeah.
to put up with and a
Uh-huh.
list of things that you will not put up with,
Hmm.
right? Because you always have choice about where you apply your skills and abilities. Even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it, even though you can be in a very constrained situation, you always have a choice about uh, leaving or staying. And if you can't leave, you have a choice about how much you invest. So there are always choices. There are always ways to build a happy life.
And I want to talk a little bit about leadership, and but leadership within a Scrum team, and related to Scrum Masters specifically, because they're unknowingly they are leaders in a Scrum team. Like they provide a function of leadership, and I just want to explore your perspective on on that and how you feel Scrum Masters and also coaches as well, whether we equip them well enough for that kind of leadership role, and whether that's something that is missing or maybe could be done better.
My idea about Scrum Masters or coaches in a leadership role is that they are holding that function for the team until the team can do it for themselves.
Hmm.
Not that they are going to occupy that role and calcify in that role forever. Because if so, they're probably not better than plan-driven project managers like we started with at the beginning of my career, right?
Hmm.
If so, then they're going to have to resort to the same tactics I talked about earlier, manipulating people nicely, being the hard ass, whatever is their version of it, right? So the idea to go for is the idea that leadership needs to flow on a team like water. It needs to go where the expertise is. It needs to go where the creative energy and the good idea is happening, right? Instead of getting stuck in a person. You can think about leadership as a capability.
Right, right.
Everyone leads. Everyone can lead. Now,
Hmm.
what this requires, and this is also back to, one of the hallmarks of adult development, it requires adult to adult relationships. So if you start to look at the way most people interact in especially large corporations, you will find a lot of parent-child interaction.
Hmm.
It's a whole lot of it's a whole lot of what we're used to as children when there were parents, or we are now the parents of the quote unquote children in the
Hmm.
organization. Well, all that does is lock us into just really hurtful relationships
Hmm.
because it doesn't allow people to express their natural creativity and their natural resourcefulness. That's the thing that agility gave us. That's the thing I could see for the first time. It's like, my God, these people are actually creative. They are actually resourceful. They do know what to do when they're put in a system that values them as adults and expects them to relate to one another as adults. But then it
It's the
requires skills.
it's the Daniel Pink talks about um, autonomy, mastery, and purpose, and actually giving them the autonomy, like give the freedom, the environment to be creative.
Yeah, yeah. And it's hilarious and a little bit damning that we say things like give them the autonomy
Hmm.
because adults actually do have autonomy. And the way we express autonomy when we're not allowed to do it in a healthy way is that we do all of these really negative and damaging things. We we express our autonomy all the time. You watch and see how it happens on teams. You see it from the person who's stonewalling, who won't
Hmm.
engage. You see it to the person who takes over every single conversation. Those are ways that people are expressing their autonomy. It
Yeah,
can be healthier than that.
yeah, and I was working with a retail company once, and they had a big announcement about their agile transformation, and they one of the big messages was like, you are empowered, and they're dealing with teams of different cultures where there is a real hierarchical system historically, and literally by saying you are empowered doesn't actually empower anybody. No,
Yeah.
actually they need to be trained to.
I mean, it really helps to say you are
Yeah,
empowered. It
yeah.
really helps.
Mm,
And leaders who truly want their organizations humans to be empowered need to say it a gazillion times because people
yes.
do not believe them. And the very first time that someone after that statement steps on someone else, and especially someone who's in power, that other person will say, "You didn't mean it.
Mm,
You didn't mean it." So I've worked in two organizations that I can think of that had some really great ideas around this. One of them was a large organization. The leadership was giving these messages. You're empowered. We want you to make decisions at the source where the most information is. We don't want to see a lot of escalations. We want to see partnership with managers, but basically you all make your own decisions. You're empowered. And what happened? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. So what happened for a while is that things weren't even getting escalated and decisions still weren't being made. So things just sort of ground to a halt. So someone said, let's just do something stupid like write your own permission slip.
Hmm.
Remember permission slips when you were a kid and
Yeah.
you had a field trip or something at school and you had to come home and get a
Mm.
permission slip signed so you can go on the field trip. But it's like that, only you sign your own permission slip.
Or forward it. Yeah.
Or forge it. That's a lot of autonomy. So
Yes.
but that was the idea, and for a while, these physical and digital permission slips were showing up everywhere. People were literally writing them out, and what it did was it gave people a way to make a declaration. I'm going to do X unless you tell me by Y time,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So it became more of a culture of consent rather than authoritarianism or consensus. And so things started to move.
Hmm.
And after a while, they didn't need the crutch of the permission slip. So that was in a very, very traditional hierarchical organization. The other one I'm thinking about is in an organization that did not start out hierarchical. 25 years ago, when these people founded the organization, they were developers. They were, you know, all the way bred coders, like deep into
Hmm.
it, D&D kind of people. They're brilliant at playing Dungeons and Dragons, okay?
Yes. Yeah.
So they started their organization um, so that it would be the kind of place that they would want to work in. So they always had the idea that we wouldn't have hierarchy, we would value emergence, collaboration would be the way we go, decision making everywhere. And so they found agility about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. Started bringing that in because they had started to calcify. People started to create roles for themselves. All of a sudden, there started to be managers and things like that, and they didn't like it. So they found agility. They started bringing that in, but then they found out that people still weren't making decisions. That people still weren't taking action. That was not enough creativity coming out of the organization. And so we did a lot of different things with that organization, and some of them were helping people understand uh, how to decide how to decide. Like different ways of making decisions. And so that was a little bit of structure, or we talked about it as scaffolding because it wasn't meant to be there forever, right? A scaffold to help you learn how to do something new. And then eventually we can take the scaffold away.
Is that like the Scrum Master role? Going back to what you said about holding the space, it's like scaffolding.
Yeah, it's like scaffolding.
Mm.
And people get all freaked out. They're like, oh my God, I won't have a job. Of course you will. There's always another there's always another team. And this team over here that was going great for the last year, they're in crisis. So they need someone to help them in their next level of development. So there's always something to do.
Yeah, it's the term redundancies. I always say to Scrum Masters, say your role is to do yourself out of a job,
Yeah.
but it's not the job within the company. It's the job within the team. Actually, you
Yeah.
step away.
Yeah.
Mm.
I've been giving keynotes for like so many years now, but in the last few years, I've been aware that I'm up here talking to hundreds of people, many of whom have never seen agility work well, but they love the idea of it. That's why they're here. They're at this Agile conference. They're trying to make it work. They see that it can. Maybe they've seen it on a small scale, but they're just struggling. And it actually kills me to think that so many people have never seen it done well because it is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
Absolutely gorgeous.
when it works, it is amazing. It's like a utopia place. Um,
Well, it's a utopia place until the next set of behaviors arise, and that's why
yeah,
you need a scrum master, because
yeah.
human beings have to learn how to adult.
Hmm. Yeah. My goodness. I think it is. I think we're in a place at the moment with Agile. I think we're fighting a battle, it seems. I don't. I'd love to get your perspective on it. Like how how do we deal with it? How do we cope with it? How can we prepare our coaches, scrum masters, product owners, people who are skilled in their field to actually keep the fight going? Because it seems like there's lots of different um, battles at play that unless we have this sort of collective force, it's very difficult to work against. What do you think about it?
I don't think we're going to win against the forces of scale and uh, profit, especially profit at all costs.
Mhm.
Um, so that's not a worthy battlefield to be on. I think I'd rather look at this in a larger time scale
Mhm.
and just how I just make myself feel better about it is that I say, okay, in this particular time period, what's trying to happen is that people are scrambling for simpler ways of working with a confounding world. And they're going back to what doesn't work, but that's normal. That's what human beings do. The trite way of saying it is when we're stressed, we regress.
We go back to what we know.
We go, yeah, even if it
Mhm.
doesn't work.
Mhm.
And we do all kinds of things to make ourselves believe that it actually is working. I mean, we're like incredibly delusional, incredibly delusional. But it will come back around. Because here's the thing, and the it I'm talking about is agility. It's working with the world as it is. I think that's the biggest gift that agility gives us. It gives us the ability to look at the world as it is, to be honest about what's happening, to be honest about what can happen, and make choices from there, and make choices based on the information available to us right now. One of the things I love about agility is that maybe its greatest gift to us is that it helps us metabolize change for good. Because the one thing we're not ever going to stop is change. So why not get good at it, right? So right now, I say to people, just chill out. Like, do what you can do, but don't think that you're going to like topple this, machine that has been running for so long. You know, the good news and the bad news wrapped in some good news is that the world is not going to get less complex. The world is showing us its complexity. The world is showing us its underbelly right now. The world is showing us the horribly, beautifully complicated results of capitalism and the need to reinvent it. Okay, great. That's an amazing place for Agilists to serve. And in the meantime, while your business is doing stupid things, go serve elsewhere.
Right.
So this is like one of the messages I have for people is like we agilists think that everyone knows about agile. That is not true. Most people on the planet do not know what you mean when you say agile. If you go work with people who are helping communities recover after climate catastrophe, if you go work with communities that are helping girls rise out of poverty or helping people have skills so they don't fall prey to extremists, or just do something more simple, work on a community garden, like help your community come together to work on a community garden. I think these are things that Agilists can turn their attention to right now. Fighting the big systems, screw that. Don't worry about it. It's not our time right now.
Wow, that's yeah. I think I'm really with you. Is that where we've gone wrong over time? Is that we've tried, going back to what you were saying about, we've tried to break these big machines, these big massive complex organizations, and try to reinvent them, and it's just too big a job for us.
But
Is that right? Do you think we've been
we're going to
trying
be,
too hard?
I think we're going to be helped because look, if the projections of our best scientists are anywhere close to the mark, we're going to move into an incredibly challenging time as a human species.
Hmm.
So, biodiversity loss, climate change, climate catastrophes on the scale we've never seen before. And then we have all of the knock on effects from that, the horrible inequities that are showing themselves and widening even more, the move toward extremism and authoritarianism. All of these things are going to start to break those systems. So,
Hmm.
who can help rebuild? Us.
Hmm.
Us. But we can't rebuild the house when it's still falling down. And I think about how hard we try to like renovate a room at a time while this house of a corporation is falling down around us. And I think about the fact that we might even put these corporations on life support with our help. And maybe what needs to happen is that we just let them do what they're trying to do, which is die.
And then come in with a big Superman cape when it's needed,
Who knows what needs to rise from that, right?
like a phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? I
Hmm.
mean, I think it would be a different form. I would certainly hope it would be a different form. If we just do this whole multinational corporation profit for profit's sake thing again, that's getting us nowhere except destroying our home.
So how do we adapt here? How do we prepare Scrum Masters, coaches to start thinking in that kind of way? What would be a good way for them to start adapting, do you think?
Well, I mean, just starting to take on this much larger perspective
Mm.
that agility is not only about making business more X, Y, or Z, whatever adjective you put in there. I think about it this way: if agility has arrived at this time, what is its job? And I look around and I say there are a lot of jobs for agility that have nothing to do with getting my paycheck working inside of a large corporation. So just that expanded view is number one. Number two would be that there are people who are already doing what I've talked about. The Women in Agile organization and other people as well have started to apply agility to our many planetary challenges. You know, you can maybe we'll put some things in the show notes, Steve. You can go to the We Hope magazine. There are 4 editions of the We Hope magazine. Each one has about 12 stories of agilists applying agility to things that actually matter, things that matter to our ability to sustain ourselves as a healthy human species and have an inhabitable planet for our children. That seems like more important to me than, like trying to get some leader to do something that they do not want to do. We Hope Magazine, Sustainability Incubator projects, the Women in Agile World Work program. These are all places we can point people.
Okay. We're coming towards the end. It seems like we've got it. We could probably spend another couple of hours of. There's all sorts of things I'd like to cover off, and we haven't really covered off half as much as I wanted to. But it's been fascinating just listening to your perspective, your ideas, your experiences, and I just want to cover. I just want to sort of just touch upon one area, if I may, which is, and it's linked to the work that you're currently doing with leadership around retreats and taking them away from the day to day, the stresses and strains of the office place. And I want to link it with Scrum Masters and Agile coaches because there's definitely I mean, everybody could use that, right? Everybody could use some just time away and going to do some deep work. And I want to just get your ideas and understanding around that particular, uh, the activity, the immersion. Like, what does it actually mean? What value do people get from it?
Yeah. So, the work I'm doing right now is around me relocating my life to Portugal. I've moved from the United States to Portugal. My daughter, who's now 28, moved here 2 years ago, and we started a business together called Quinta Kaleidoscope. Quinta is the Portuguese word for farm. So, Quinta Kaleidoscope. And it's a retreat center, or, we rent it out as a vacation home in the summer when we don't have retreats. But basically, its purpose is to allow people to do exactly what you said, to re-encounter themselves as whole and creative and resourceful, and to come out of, let's say, a 3-day experience having their next wise step for some challenge that they've been working with. Most people for a long time, you know. So what people get out of it is an expansion in three particular areas. And these are the areas that I think are necessary for us to continue developing ourselves as adults, like we talked about earlier. So they expand their cognitive toolkit, the way they make sense of the world. They deepen their emotional toolkit, the way that they can allow feelings to be informers of a pearl of wisdom they would have never had any other way, instead of getting trapped in their feelings, and create flow through their energetic toolkit. All the ways that our energy is sort of kinked up and constrained because we're all freaked out about something. Ways of working with energy so it can flow, so creativity can flow, so possibilities, ideas, options, and then action can flow. So, who knows what the person is coming with as their challenge. When I work with people, it's often in small groups, like 6 people at a time. Each person has their own challenge. The thing that's beautiful about a small group is that we can do some really eye-opening exercises together that allow people to get very rapid, different perspectives they would have never gotten another way. And so, you know, emotional, energetic, and cognitive are the areas that we touch into. And I love that because I think that most of people's development, for most of their lives, is only in the cognitive domain, right? And so I'm really wanting people to re-encounter themselves, to remember themselves, to put themselves back together and understand that they are wise, that they actually have a lot of knowing inside of them and a lot of sources of information they can tap into all the time that right now is just being ignored.
And being suppressed by
Yeah.
their own sort of environments and what's going on. So they come on these retreats as one person, then they leave a deeper version of themselves.
Yeah, I've only done this one time. I'm doing it again in January. So it's
Mm.
not like an ongoing offer or anything. I'm not building an empire to do this. No big company is getting created or anything. But the 6 people who are on it in October were so happy to provide, just a quick sentence about what happened for them. And one of them said, "I feel ready for the future, like I'm starting at a new starting line."
Mhm.
And wouldn't that be amazing if there's something you've been struggling with and you get to start at a new starting line?
Yeah. I wonder whether something like this could be good for what you suggested about reinventing or recreating or adapting to a new way of doing agile, providing agile in where it's really needed.
Yeah.
We can
They're
explore that.
they're quite connected.
Yeah,
At least in my own mind, they could be connected in the future.
for sure. Lyssa, thank you so much. Like it's a really fascinating to get your insight and to get your perspective, and yeah, just to spend some time with you and get you just sort of talking about things. So thank you for your time, thank you for your warmth and your one of the kindest and most generous people for sure. Um, and where can people find you? Is there like website,
There's just
LinkedIn?
one place.
Yes.
Just one place. Of course, LinkedIn. Everyone's on LinkedIn these days, but also my website, LyssaAdkins.com, with the crazy spelling of Lyssa. Yes, my parents actually did that to me. Lyssa Adkins.
It makes you unique, right?
Yeah, isn't
Wonderful. Lyssa, thank you very much.
You're welcome.